So Pride in Sport is a campaign that does actually happen across the UK, and we thought we'd bring that across to Guernsey. It's the third year that we've been doing it with our partner EY, and it just encourages people to tackle homophobia, biphobia and transphobia in sport.
Pride in Sport really caught our attention because of the difference that we felt that it could make. It was particularly topical at the time with the things that were going on in football and a lot of homophobic behaviour in Russia. So it just felt really right to be a part of that story and how we can change behaviours and encourage people to really understand what their impact of their actions are on other people. What could seem like a joke for one person could have a deep personal impact for another.
We all know the positive effects of physical well-being on mental well-being. It's well documented these days. So just supporting something like this to create an inclusive environment where everyone can feel like they can be involved in sport. I mean, it's a win-win situation really for everyone, isn't it?
If you know that you belong in a place and you know that you're supported in your true self and not just your professional persona, then you really do perform at your best.
I think it reflects the core values of rugby really: teamwork, respect, enjoyment, discipline and sportsmanship, and there's something that even I'd expect most of the younger players coming through the academy to know, and I think those values then reflect on in general life, and I don't see why sort of what your race is, what your sexual orientation is or any of your other interests should impact on the sport you play.
I mean, sport and activity in Guernsey are hugely beneficial to the community. They're a real force for good, and we're so lucky to have so many opportunities for people to be involved in it. And we have a responsibility to make sure that those opportunities are open to everybody and to make sure that sport's inclusive. And it isn't inclusive if people feel that they're not wanted or they're uncomfortable because of banter and language.
A lot of sports on the island, everyone competing for the same pool of players. You can't be having 1, 2, 3 people not wanting to join your club because of the worry about homophobic remarks being made. So yeah, it's really important to make sure that our sport is inclusive to everybody and making sure that we have as many players playing as possible.
One of the reasons I'm really keen to be involved is that I've loved sport for years, but back 30 or 40 years ago I would attend crowds and do nothing about really inappropriate language and language to players and things that it's just you wouldn't believe it now. It just seems so inappropriate. So I wanted to give back really, and I wanted to do some supporting of Pride in Sport.
It's hugely important across the board, whether it's sport, media, school. As an LGBT person, I can't tell you the difference that it makes. And representation is what makes a huge difference. When you see somebody who's like yourself, who's successful at something, in this context, obviously sport, it makes you want to get involved. It makes you feel like you can engage, that you will be supported, and if it's not necessarily your team that might be engaging in that type of banter or inappropriateness, but you know that you'll be supported if that happens to you by your team, and that's super important.
And I just think as a coach, it's incumbent on you not to use banter inappropriately, not to use language that can be sloppy, because you don't realise how much young people are taking in about what you say.
What can happen if we talk sport specific? People will step out of sport. People won't return to the teams that they were playing in if they feel uncomfortable. It's the same as any social situation really. If you don't feel included in something, you're not going to return, and that is a worry, because if people stop being physically active, it's going to have a knock-on effect on their mental well-being.
It will empower people that don't really who won't come out, and gives them more confidence, and it just gets to the newer times and a newer generation that we're all in now. And events like this, doing what we're doing with the laces, the headband we've got on, and the band here, stuff like that, it just lets people talk about it.
People still actually don't like to speak out, so a couple of the people that I reached out to actually didn't want to come and get involved because they were worried about repercussions from speaking out about it. So they were kind of like, but have a word with this team particularly, which it does still happen. It hopefully isn't anywhere near the levels it was sort of in the 80s and 70s. We've made racism unacceptable in those circumstances. We hopefully will make homophobia the same over a course of time, but it does take a long time, and it takes people in positions of power and people who are respected to call that out for it to become unacceptable.
We support in general diversity and inclusiveness to make sure that people feel they can belong and speak out where they work, and hope that they can bring that culture to other places. That's why we want to support pride in sport.
Just to give people the confidence to tackle homophobic language, to give people the confidence to engage in sport if they are an LGBTQ person, to give people courage to stay within sports and to speak out when they do hear things. So yeah, we'd love to give people that pride in their sport.